Alright, also look, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about current UFC champions and the fighters within their divisions that give them the most amount of difficulty, or the ones that are most likely to overthrow their rule within the division, i.e. their nightmare matchups. So, without further ado, let's get right into the video. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help me reach 1,500 subscribers by May. I'll deeply appreciate you. And make sure you join the official UFC Discord, link in the description. Alright, so look, here's the breakdown for the nightmare matchups in each UFC division. First off, we've got the undisputed flyweight champion of the world, Alexandre Pantoja. And, you know, honestly, it's kind of hard to find someone who could be his nightmare matchup within the flyweight division. Because, I mean, this guy has quite literally beaten every elite contender, including Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, and Kai Kara France. And before, I was thinking that maybe the main guy that can possibly crack this unsolvable code would most likely be Amir Albazi, but, you know, after his loss against Brandon Moreno a few days ago, that future seems highly unlikely. And as for the rising prospects such as Manel Kape and Tatsuro Taira, for one, Manel Kape has already been an Alexandre Pantoja victim in the past, and on top of that, his issues with making weight don't really help his chances on getting a title shot anytime soon. And as for Tatsuro, I know he just lost his O against Brandon Royval not too long ago, but he's still super young at only 24 years of age, and he will most likely become a future champ one day. But for right now, I just don't see him beating current Alexandre Pantoja. Now for Kai Asakura. Him and Pantoja are scheduled to fight in December, and I haven't quite finished watching tape on him yet from his Ryzen days, but from what I do know, he's primarily a striker that rarely goes to the ground. So if Alexandre Pantoja can do what he usually does best and implement his grappling game plan, I think he can get it done. Now, I think the only viable options I've got right now is honestly Brandon Royval. I think with his showings against both Brandon Moreno as well as Tatsuro Taira, his game has completely evolved exponentially since the last time they were in the cage together. And if Flyweight were to have a nightmare matchup for Pantoja, it would most likely go to Brandon Royval. Moving on to the Bantamweight division, we've got our undisputed champion, Merab the Machine Dvalishvili. And for his nightmare matchup, I think we all know what's coming right now. It's gotta go to the Daggy Rat himself, Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar is a super well-rounded, undefeated prospect, and I think if anyone within the Bantamweight division can solve this unsolvable equation that is Merab Dvalishvili and his 9 infinite gas tank, it's probably the Nurmagomedov rat, I'm not gonna cap. Merab has shown a lot of weaknesses when he's the one getting pressured and forced to play defense, cause usually he's the hammer and not the nail. And when it comes to the stand-up aspect of this fight, I think that Merab could find a lot of trouble fighting somebody as balanced as Umar is, because we've seen from the Corey the Sandman fight that Umar is not afraid to mix it up, and the fact that Merab Dvalishvili would have to deal with not only the threat on the feet, but also the takedown threat as well, could serve as a major issue in a fight between him and Umar Nurmagomedov. And it's not like he's fighting a cat like Sugar Sean, who is only a stand-up threat, and you know, when fighting Umar, Merab will quite literally be facing one of, if not the most balanced fighters within the Bantamweight division. Moving on to the Featherweight division, we've got the undefeated, undisputed Featherweight champion of the world, Ilia El Mata Dortopuria. And for his Featherweight nightmare matchup, I've got nobody. Yeah, let me cut this short and sweet, but I really don't see anyone within the Featherweight division that I realistically see beating Ilia El Matador. And you know, I legit think that Ilia is the most well-rounded pound-for-pound fighter that we've seen in recent memory. I mean, his striking's elite, his ground game's elite, and he's got a fan-friendly fight style. Dude, this guy's got the entire package. But for argument's sake, I'll say that his nightmare matchup, if you can even call it that, would probably go to Diego Lopez. But you know, it's kind of really hard to say, because even though I'm a staunch Diego Lopez supporter, I really don't think he's ready for Ilia El Matador just quite yet, if ever. Because when you see this man brutally flatline two of the greatest men to ever grace his division in Alexander Volkanovski and Max Blessed Holloway back to back within a 7-month time span at 27, it gets really hard seeing him lose to anyone within the featherweight division. And I mean, who does he lose to? Diego Lopez? Movsar Evloevs? Aljamain Sterling? Yeah, Ilia El Matador Topuria has 0 nightmare matchups, but for the sake of the video, we'll just go with Diego Lopez. Now, moving on to the lightweight division, we've got one of the high-ranking members of the Daggy Rat Club, Islam Makhachev, the current lightweight champion of the world. And for his nightmare matchup, I guess we kind of have to go with Arman Tsarukyan, right? I mean, there's really no one else, and now that I think about it, Islam Makhachev has kind of cleared out his division with wins over Charles do Bronx, Dustin the Diamond, Dan the Hangman, and Arman Tsarukyan himself. And, you know, they've got a rematch scheduled for January, so we'll just have to see. But besides of Ilia El Matador Topuria, I think that Islam Makhachev is one of the most well-rounded pound-for-pound fighters within the entire UFC. You name it, he's got it. An elite striking game, an elite wrestling game, of course, and not to mention his ever-evolving jiu-jitsu. I say Islam Makhachev stays at the top of his game for a very long time, unless he invites a super fight with Ilia El Matador. Only then do I see him meeting his match and getting absolutely brutally flatline KO'd for a second time. But if that's not the case, then Islam Makhachev has 0 nightmare matchups within the lightweight division. Moving on to the welterweight division, we've got the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, Belal, remember the eyeball, Muhammad. And for his welterweight nightmare matchup, I'm gonna have to kind of give it to Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, who else? But here's the thing about this. I kind of find it really hard seeing Belal Muhammad losing to Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I'm just really not those people that are on the Shavkat hype train. I legit think that Shavkat sucks and is extremely overrated, but there's always that slim chance that he can get it done over Belal, and that's kind of why I had to include him on the Nightmares tier list. But when we're looking at Shavkat, is he really that special? I mean, who has this guy fought? He struggled and went life and death against Jeff Hands of Steel Neal. Has a win over journeyman Neil Magny and another Mickey Mouse win over a 42-year-old Wonder Boy. Those names aren't necessarily cream of the crop. I think that Shavkat's got way too many flaws to be a legitimate threat to any elite fighter at 170. Thus, the chances of him beating Belal are slim, but not entirely out of the question. And that's why I've got him as the welterweight division's nightmare matchup. Moving on to the middleweight division, we've got the undisputed champion, Dricus Stillknox du Plessis. And for his middleweight nightmare matchup, I've got the one and only Khamzat Chimaev. And I'm gonna really keep this short and simple, but I think that Khamzat Chimaev goes out there and ragdolls DDP within the first couple rounds. And you know, a lot of MMA fans forgot how dominant this man is and how his grappling is just on a different level compared to a lot of the fighters within the middleweight division. His wrestling pedigree combined with his aggressive style makes him a nightmare matchup for nearly anyone. And it took him snapping the jaw of the beloved Bobby Knuckles to help everyone remember, and it just goes to show how fickle the MMA community is, but I digress. I think that he'll be too much for Dricus du Plessis, though Dricus doing something goofy and putting Khamzat out is almost never out of the question, and you know, it just really isn't that practical. So I've got Khamzat Chimaev as the middleweight nightmare matchup. Moving on to the light heavyweight division, we've got our undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, Alex Poatan Pereira. And for his light heavyweight nightmare matchup, I'm gonna have to go with Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, who else would it be? But you see, I don't see Magomed Ankalaev getting the job done, unfortunately. A lot of people get hypnotized by the chin strap beard with no mustache combo with the distinct Daggy features and immediately think that he's some type of world-busting submission artist. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, he's not. And Magomed Ankalaev is a striker with 0 submission finishes in his entire MMA career. And he has said on numerous occasions that he is going to strike with Alex Boatan. Oh my god. Please do that, Magomed Ankalaev, and let's see how that plays out. On top of that, his most recent performance against Alexander Rakic was all I needed to cement this theory. And watch, in his fight against Alex Boatan, he's gonna go out there and within the first couple rounds feel all dangerous and shit, and then get sent straight into limbo by a fully loaded Boatan, a left hook to the dome piece. And now last, but certainly not least, onto the heavyweight division. And we've got our fraudulent heavyweight champion of the world, Johnny Turinabol Jones. And for his heavyweight nightmare matchup, there is only one sole possible answer, and that is the real heavyweight champion of the world, Tom Aspinall. But at the end of the day, it won't even matter because Johnny Turinabol is probably going to retire after dismantling poor old fireman Stipe Miocic, who in and of himself is also on the verge of retirement as well. But for all I know, Johnny Turinabol's legacy will forever be tarnished, and it gets even worse because he is actively ducking the most skilled and rightfully deserving heavyweight of all time in Tommy Aspinall. And all we can do now is just pray that Stipe Miocic is able to pull off a miracle and somehow, by the Lord's grace, snag the upset win against Johnny Turinabol and unify the heavyweight championship belt against Tommy Aspinall. But that's all I've got to say for this video. Let me know in the comment section below, who do you guys think is every UFC champion's nightmare matchup in each and every division? Let me know in the comment section below. But that about wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.